people in charge of something as important as an election. We don't even have results back yet from the election that happened days ago. Such is life. And if you look at the condition of the school system in Baltimore, you can see people need to lose their jobs. People down at City Hall need to lose their jobs. People down at North Avenue need to lose their jobs with the condition of things. So we're going to talk about that. Accountability for the election, or the debacle that they're calling an election. People need to be held accountable for these things. Over and over again, we keep having problems. And why? Because people are not held accountable. People are just being rewarded over and over again for failure. Rewarded for failure. Doesn't happen too often, but it happens here in Baltimore. That's for damn sure. Over and over again, people rewarded for failure. Rewarded for incompetence. Did I say already that we still don't have the results for an election that was pushed back 5 weeks, which means you have 5 more weeks to prepare? In itself, you get 4 years to prepare for an election. 4 years. And these bumbling idiots can't even pull off an election. Something that we are taught when you're in school. One of the main things that you taught is how to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? It's as simple as counting. It's not a whole lot to it. You had a little ballot, you filled in who you wanted, and that's it. And if the machine's not working in District 1, then you count it by hand, right? You count it by hand. You remember how to do that, right? District 1 acting like the ballots are uncountable. We can't count the ballots. What are you talking about, right? When I went into my polling place, I saw a whole bunch of people who thought they was in charge. So no, move over here, walk right here, stand, let me put this on your hand, all this kind of stuff. Everybody will be in charge, but nobody can count. You can't round up all these people that want that election judge check and get them to count. Too difficult. It's too difficult for people, but that's where we're at right now. Election accountability, no accountability. I knew that we couldn't pull off something so simple as to have people mail the ballots in and count them. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's not rocket science. But that's where we're at. Can't even figure out who won the election. So you're going to have all these people that's going to be complaining for the next 4 years. People that's complaining that they really won, but, you know, the man took them down. The man took them down. And that's where we're at. Well, in addition to this debacle of an election, and it's really sad because this should have worked out. This really should have worked out, but it did not. Right? Did not. And I don't even know. Ultimately, I think that Sheila Dixon is going to end up being the mayor. She's in the lead. She has a pretty decent lead ahead of the nearest competitors. So that's, you know, probably where that's going to end up. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time rehashing stuff that we've already done. But at this point, they have just under 50% of the votes in. Sheila Dixon has 30% of that. Brandon Scott, 24%. So more than likely it's going to be one of these two. Some surprises. The poor performance of Through Vignaraja. I would have liked to see TJ Smith have done better as well. But Not a lot of story. The only big story out of this is that there is no story. That's the only thing that you can really surmise from this. No big story. The fact that maybe some products of Baltimore City Public Schools can't count because the votes are very simple. Just count them, right? All right, so I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time there because we don't really have any answers than we've had the last 2 days. Not a lot by way of that. Also, we're gonna get to the bail for the 3 cops. We're gonna get to Drew Brees and that piece of human feces. We're gonna get to Drew Brees in a minute. So, Baltimore County is preparing to fully move into the second phase of reopening. Larry Hogan, the governor, gave his orders on reopening, and it's unfolding. We're slowly getting back to a point where non-essential businesses, this is going by Hogan's orders. He wants to move the state into the second phase effective 5 p.m. tomorrow. Non-essential businesses that were previously ordered to close will begin to reopen. This includes gyms, fitness centers, movie theaters will remain shuttered. But it's interesting. So if you look at Baltimore County, which has a 7.9% positivity rating among the COVID-19 tests conducted, that is below the state average. It's below the state average. What we have is that the state gives an order, and then the individual jurisdictions a lot of times supersede those orders, or they go along with them, a variation of that, right? And it creates a lot of confusion. It creates a lot of confusion, and people don't really know what's to do with where they are. But as it relates to the state overall, you have Maryland with a stockpile of testing supplies, right? We have made great strides and improved the key metrics. Who's getting affected? What are our numbers? Those key metrics, they have improved. So you're going to start to see some non-essential businesses opening back up. Hogan said that, like Baltimore County, different local leaders will continue to have discretion on what and how fast they're going to open up. But as you know, when everybody has a little bit of power, they're just going to try to squeeze it as much as they possibly can. Most places are not going to just say, we're going to go with what the governor said. They're going to want to do their own little thing. Just because. It's just like at the election polling centers. You know, people want to tell you what to do. Hey, stop right there. Make sure you stand right here. Don't do that. Just it gives them this little feeling of being superior to people. But it doesn't always equal out with things being good or capable or competent, as you can see with the fact that we don't have results for the elections. But I digress. Let us continue. So, the governor said that continued efforts to access federal labs have been unsuccessful. However, he said that Baltimore's lab and stockpile of testing supplies make the state uniquely positioned for whatever is ahead. You do remember that the governor had his wife call overseas, and we got a bunch of tests flown in. So he's saying that we good. We good on that, all right? He said, I ain't really talking about the other states, but all I know is that Maryland is good. Well, that's a good thing. We don't get a lot of good news. So that is a good thing. Hogan also said that the 10-person limit on gatherings technically remains in place, but pointed to the protests that have taken place in Baltimore, Towson, Columbia, and Annapolis since the death of George Floyd, which is something that I've talked about. If we have seen these mass groups of people get together, does that throw into question your feelings about COVID-19 and coronavirus and people gathering? I'm going to get into that in a second. The governor said that most of those people were not following the guidance, and he suggested that anybody who was out at a protest should look to getting tested and avoid at-risk friends and family until they know that they don't have the coronavirus. So the protest took place outdoors. So you had a lot of fresh air, free-flowing air. There was a lot going on, right? That's different from people being confined to a space that is indoors. So while we have not seen widespread numbers or a second wave, I don't know if that was 100% the best test of it, because if those people had been indoors, we might have seen that. But they had air. They were outside. So it was a little bit safer for them getting all together. I don't want people to say, I saw something online. Somebody said all these people got together and nobody has coronavirus. Somebody lying. Doesn't mean that. Doesn't mean somebody's lying. I'm just saying they weren't all inside. Now, you put all those people on a plane, that's something totally different. Where the air is just recycled back, same old air for a whole flight, that's something different. Put all these people in an auditorium or a gymnasium, that might be something different. Get all those people together in the arena, might be something different. So I don't want people to be under this false impression that everything is all good, because we don't know that just yet. Let this be a lesson to you all. So speaking of the protests, the police commissioner, Michael Harrison, said today that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives helped investigate some suspicious bricks. So there was a big pile of bricks that mysteriously appeared before the protests. It's no mystery, right? Somebody put it there. And it's not a whole, they say we got to get the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. We have cameras on all the light poles, right? If I run a red light, you don't have to get the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms to send some ticket to my house. You use your cameras and you do it. And that's it. So you just look at the cameras, tell us who dropped off that big load of bricks. It's not a whole lot to it. But anyway, they said that the bricks were similar to the ones thrown at officers that led police to put on their tactical gear earlier last week. It's not a whole lot to it. I hate when we complicate things that are not complicated. So they commend the officers, showing great restraint. Though he did not know how the police came to learn about the bricks, I saw that the bricks were there on social media. A lot of people were talking about it. They're always looking on social media. The hip hop police are everywhere, but where they need to be, they should have been looking at the damn bricks. Anyway, of course, as police often do, they want to continue to praise officers, but they also want to praise the protesters for helping ensure that Baltimore avoided some of the violent confrontations seen in other cities. Now, that is not going to say that does not say that Baltimore did not have incidents. There are plenty of incidents downtown where stores are boarded up because the windows are busted out. We saw the ATMs, several ATMs downtown that were, attempted to be robbed, but they couldn't get money out. Anyway, Commissioner Harrison said that I'm proud that the police officers exercise professionalism, restraint, tolerance, and have actually been part of showing the empathy and compassion that people would say we did not have. It's a mystery, right? Only a handful of arrests have been made in connection with the protest. So I am happy about that. It could have been a lot worse. So it's also something we were talking about the protest and what led to these protests. Of course, the death of George Floyd, and very sad situation, something that we've seen over and over again. George Floyd's not the only person, but this was, as many people say, this was the straw that broke the camel's back. This was just one of those things. Before we go any further, just tune in and listen to the Diamond K Show, Radio on Fire. I am here daily with my take on news, entertainment, and trending topics. So the company Talkspace provides free support. They have a support group for those affected by racial trauma. What is Talkspace? Talkspace is like having a therapist in your pocket. So this platform provides confidential, affordable online therapy with a professional licensed therapist. And they have created a free private support group for those who have been affected by racial trauma. This Talkspace group will be moderated by licensed clinicians who will maintain the safety of the space as well as provide resources, guidance, and invoke thoughtful conversation. You can find out more about that at radioonfire.com. We have a link for Talkspace, or you can simply visit Talkspace on Facebook. So it is at Talkspace. So the death of George Floyd is what led to massive protests around the world. And I was happy to hear that the 3 fired officers were charged and arrested, that the charges against the murderer who had his knee on the throat of George Floyd, his charges were increased. So a judge has set bail at $750,000 a piece, $750,000 a piece today for the three fired murderers, ex-Minneapolis police officers charged with aiding and abetting in the killing of George Floyd. And ironically, this is just as a memorial service took place for this unarmed black man that was killed. So the officers made their first appearances in court as friends, relatives, and celebrities gathered to memorialize Floyd. Minneapolis Police Department fired them last week alongside Derek Chauvin, who was charged now with second-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter in the May 25th death of George Floyd. So thankfully we had this video, because we did not have these multiple videos, this would not be happening. This would not be happening. Now, defense attorneys for these loser ex-cops, they argued for lower bail. They told court that Chauvin was a training officer, and they're saying that these officers have been on the job for just 3 and 4 days respectively. So you can kind of get an idea as to where they're going with this. 3 and 4 days, and they're gonna try to play the we didn't know any better. We were under his care and guidance, and they're gonna probably try to throw him under the bus, Derek Chauvin. But I don't think we should accept any of that foolishness. all of them are participants. They were willing participants in the murder of an unarmed black man, and they should be dealt with accordingly. Defendants don't normally enter pleas during their first appearance in Minnesota courts, which tend to be brief proceedings. The judge set their next court dates for June 29th. If convicted, Chauvin faces a maximum of 40 years on the murder and 10 years for manslaughter. Now, facing that, this could go so many different ways. Under Minnesota law, aiding and abetting second-degree murder is it's the same as a second-degree murder charge. So the other three loser cops could face the same potential penalties if convicted as this loser murderer Chauvin faces if he's convicted. Now, a date for Chauvin's first court appearance has not been set. He was arrested on May 29th, as you remember. The latest criminal complaint against him says his actions were substantial cause factors in Mr. Floyd losing consciousness, constituting substantial bodily harm, and Mr. Floyd's death as well. So the narratives in the three complaints against the ex-cops that aided and abetted are almost identical to the one against Chauvin. And it is this is something that protesters said that they wanted. I am assuming that protests are going to ease up some. Now, we're not going to be able to go back and rewrite history, but we can write history going forward. We can write the story going forward. And I hope that is what is going to happen. I hope that's what's going to happen. And you know, I said that we were going to get to it, and that is this piece of feces. Drew Brees, number 9, quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. He has now apologized after his comments drew severe backlash. The Saints quarterback is apologizing. He's been criticized heavily, as he should. Athletes, including some of his own teammates, for comments that he said against kneeling during the national anthem in an interview. During the interview, Brees was asked about former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick's kneeling during the national anthem in 2016. 2016, it's been that long. He said this is Drew Brees talking. "I will never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag of the United States." Okay. Drew Brees is an idiot, okay? It comes down to what you call disrespecting the flag. When you have an officer of the law murder someone, an unarmed civilian, an unarmed citizen, that's disrespecting the flag. That's disrespecting the country that he is an employee of, someone to defend citizens of the country. That's a representative. That's disrespect to the flag. But you have the nerve, Drew Brees, to consider someone voicing opposition to the racial discrimination and unfair system. You view that as disrespect, but not the murder, not police brutality as the disrespect. You're an idiot. He's an idiot. Brees continued. In many cases, it brings me to tears thinking about all that has been sacrificed, and not just in the military, but for that matter, those throughout the civil rights movements in the 60s, and all that has been endured by so many people until this point. Brees added, the anthem reminds him of his two grandfathers that served in World War II. I am happy that people that think like Drew Brees, people that we thought were cool, really have been exposed and continue. I want people like this to continue to be exposed. Many major athletes have since responded to Drew Brees' statements, including LeBron James, including Ed Reed, Malcolm Jenkins, many others. Drew Brees has lost a lot of respect. I have no respect for him as a person, because after years in the NFL, years playing football, years growing up, he's now apologized for what he clearly believed all along. But in 24 hours, he didn't just change this view. He's saying it because of the backlash. He's saying it for economic reasons. But this is who he is. This is what he believes. He does not get it. He's been around black people for all these years. But this shows you what he's really thinking. You have to question who's around you, people. The people that you think is cool, you have to really open some dialogue to really find out. You can't assume. Can't assume. There are pictures of him kneeling with other players. What is he talking about? What do you really think all these young people are out here protesting? Why are they protesting? He just does not get it. He does not get it. It was never about disrespecting his grandfathers. It's about getting respect. The respect is deserved. But Drew Brees is a fool. But unfortunately, there are other fools that buy into what he's saying. He's only apologizing, and it is a very hollow apology. We should not accept his apology. You should just understand who he is and move on. But we have to continue to expose people like that. He's going to come out, he's going to cry, he's going to probably give some money and act like he's sorry for what he said, but he said it. That's what he feels. That's what's in his heart. I'll read some of his lame PR apology. It says, "I would like to apologize to my friends, teammates, the city of New Orleans, the black community, NFL community, and anyone I hurt with my comments yesterday. In speaking with some of you, it breaks my heart to know the pain I've caused." Okay. This is not anything new. This is nothing new. I don't want people to be under the impression that George Floyd is the only person. This ain't the first, this ain't the second, this ain't the third, this ain't the fourth, this ain't the 10th, this ain't the 20th instance of police brutality that resulted in death of an unarmed person. Black person. Drew Brees has heard this before. So now all of a sudden overnight, after you got this backlash, then all of a sudden you so sorry and you so empathetic and you're so aware now, and you know what I mean? Just shut up. So he says, in an attempt to talk about respect, unity, and solidarity centered around the American flag. Nobody was talking about the American flag. You brought that up. Because just like Trump, who there's a lot of pictures, or there's pictures with Drew Brees, the alleged citizen that Trump married and his wife, all four of them together, right? So this mentality comes from that mindset and that way of thinking, because this is not about the flag. This is about, which, I mean, you know, this, we can get into a discussion about the flag, but this was about police brutality, and you get example after example after example of it. And for some adults, some white adults and some black puppets to act like this is not happening, it is beyond me when grown, able minded adults act. Oh my God, I had no idea this was going on. What? Like, this George Floyd murder, they take that and say, I can't believe, I had no idea that this was happening in our country. Now I was talking to my friends and now I understand. What are you talking about? You saw it. You chose to ignore it, or you chose to act like it was what had been happening. So you just thought it was normal, or it was right, or it was just, but don't act like you didn't know, because you knew. Now, I'm not even going to read this whole dumb apology that I do not accept. I don't know if Black Americans around the country accept it, but Drew Brees, the human piece of feces, said that I stand with the Black community. No, you don't. In the fight against systematic racial injustice and police brutality, and support the creation of real policy change that will make a difference. No, you don't. Because if you did, you wouldn't open your mouth to say some of the ignorant statements that you made on yesterday. He says that he's sorry. And one thing that stuck out to me, so near the end, he says that I'm sick about the way my comments were perceived. It's not about perception. It's about what you said. But the way they were perceived, but I take full responsibility and accountability. If you take full, the word but can't be in there if you say I'm taking full responsibility and accountability. Because what he's really trying to say in the statement, I am sick about the way my comments were perceived, right? You're really trying to say it wasn't me, it was y'all and the way y'all looked at what I said, right? That's him trying to escape responsibility. He continued by saying, I recognize that I should do less talking and more listening. And when the Black community is talking about their pain, we all need to listen. That was never the debate. The problem was Colin Kaepernick was talking about the pain. And you chose to interpret it, just like your president, just like many others, chose to interpret it to mean what you want it to mean, because you don't want to talk about what it really means. And for that, Drew Brees, you can take your apology and shove it. Yeah, I really think that a lot of athletes and entertainers speaking off the cuff is going to continue to show these people for who they are. Show these people for who they are. You listen to the Diamond K Show here on Radio on Fire. And of course, if you miss any episodes of the program, you can always go radioonfire.com, catch up on past episodes. We also have breaking news, trending stories as they are happening, writing about them. If you have events coming up, djdiamondk@gmail.com, let me know. Also on social media at the Diamond K Show, at Radio on Fire. I will be back later on today for the nightly news program. So I will see you guys a little bit later.